Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. We're continuing our overall conversation and commentary about the Netflix movie All Quiet on the Western Front, which deals with France and Germany in World War One. And I found it to be so well done that why not talk about it? Now, there's a scene that really was enlightening and unique where the young men are passing around a cloth that has I guess it's a woman's handkerchief, or it's a cloth that a woman has scented, either by wearing it, most likely wearing it. And the young men are passing it around, and as they pass it around, one says, "I bet she bathes twice a day," and another time it is said, "I bet she has no dirt under her fingernails." And this cloth is passed around throughout the movie, right? And they smell it, and it gives them comfort. It's aromatherapy in a way. Scent plays a huge role in reducing pain and giving one comfort. I remember when I really loved someone and he gave me a pillow, like the kind you get from CVS. It was a heart-shaped pillow, and he used to wear this really nice cologne, and it smelled like him on the pillow, and I would smell it constantly. I was a teenager. I was with him for 6 years, and I would smell it over and over and over, and eventually the smell wore off. But I would smell it constantly, and I would think of him. And so when I saw that scene, I was like, wow, those soldiers, they have that desire of comfort. And another thing it made me think about was when I was having my first child dealing with contractions, the midwife put like the smell of orange and on a cotton ball, and I'd smell it, right? Because it would calm and soothe me as I was enduring the pain of the contractions. More and more, as that handkerchief makes the rounds, you feel a sense of pity, and you're moved in your heart as a woman that something so simple would comfort those men in such a brutal moment where they are covered in blood and mud, hungry, cold, it's damp and gray, horror surrounds them, and a moment of relief is smelling something that smells like a woman. It was a really creative way of getting into the psyche of men in that scene, where you're like, oh, scent is very important for men. And it wasn't like perfumed, it was a natural woman's scent. And when they were talking about what kind of woman it probably came from, I thought they like clean women, right? Because in the early 19th century, hot water was around, but was a lot more difficult than today, right? And I often tell women to be grateful for the fact that they have access to a hot shower. And there are women, unfortunately, who, when they're having these interviews, and they're really gross women, they're like OnlyFans chicks, and they're making their rounds on podcasts, nasty podcasts like Fresh and Fit and whatnot that I hear clips from, and these women will say that they sleep with multiple men and they only wash themselves twice a week. And there was a guy who insulted this woman pretty brutally, which was funny, about how she's dirty. He used all type of vulgar slurs, and she thought it was so funny. But he put the grossness in his words because the fact she doesn't bathe herself and she sleeps around. And then I started thinking further about that there was a sex worker who did an interview recently with Lex Friedman. And she bragged on Twitter about only showering twice a week as well, right? Super gross when you combine a woman who shares her body and gets the stench of men all over her and is so lazy that she won't wash her stinky butt. And then I started thinking about all the songs I've heard in my life before I became a Muslim, where men in the rap songs would tell women to get up and wash their rear end. And I never really understood that because I was such a clean person. I didn't get what are they talking about? But that scene brought all those different instances of where men are talking about hygiene to my mind. Because these men were like talking about dirt under fingernails and how often she bathed. And then I thought about how in Islam we are encouraged to do ghusl, which is where you purify yourself in the shower for prayer. We're encouraged to do wudu. And I thought there are women who rather have a full face of makeup and then not do wudu properly, which is wetting their face because they don't want to mess up their mascara, their eyeliner, ruin their blush. They don't want to have to reapply all the makeup. So they do a half-assed wudu when they do this, like with their hands in the air, which is totally invalid. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out the proper form of wudu when you literally read the hadiths, right? I remember I got attacked heavily by women when I started mentioning how all that makeup, how does your wudu intact because you're not getting your face wet 3 times. You're not doing it. And he's like, how do you know? And it's like, well, farts ruin your wudu. And peeing ruins your wudu. And there's all these stuff that ruins your wudu. You can't tell me you've gone this many hours and you're pretending you don't fart and you don't do these things when you do, just so you can have a cake face. No. So I thought it was interesting how there are some women who want to have a pretty face, but they don't want to be hygienically clean. And there further was something that came to my mind. A man once said something really gross, but it actually was very enlightening, where he said if it smells more like fish, it's better than if it's perfumed. Because basically he was saying if it's perfumed, she didn't wash. But if it has a natural scent on the woman, then she's probably more clean than the one who perfumes herself. And you think about how all these men talk about perfumed whores. And then I further thought about how after a woman has her period, she can take a little bit of musk and scent herself in a beautiful way for her husband, and how scent is huge when it comes to men. And then I thought about how dry shampoo was invented, where women are being told, don't take a shower and just wash your hair. Spray this aerosol crap in your head as dry shampoo because you were a busy boss babe and you gotta go. And I was thinking how women won't want to take a shower and bathe themselves because they gotta take forever to roast their hair with a blow dryer and put on layers of makeup. And some of them sleep in their makeup. And they wake up and go to work like that. And they just touch up their makeup. And I started thinking about how so many women who present themselves as these powdered, fancified women are actually really hygienically gross. And how these men were kind of getting at more of the natural, plain Jane girls who, they don't wear all that, but they shower and bathe a lot. It was just fascinating how just that one scene made me think of all the different instances about the male psychology and female hygienics. It's fascinating. And then I thought to myself, I couldn't figure out what a woman would want in that time of pain. I'd want something of my children to look at and hold. Like my kids, the little crocheted baby booties, they call them, like the little baby socks. I'd want something of my children if in times of pain and chaos. I wouldn't want anything of my husband or anyone else. It'd be all about my children. So a different psychology there. But there was an innocence about it. These young men finding themselves in war, They're not married, they don't have kids, and they're passing around a cloth that smells like a woman, fantasizing about what kind of woman it came from, and hygiene is one of the main comments. It's fascinating. Very fascinating. Really a lot to learn from men in moments like that. Even though it's actors and writers who wrote that scene, there's still some deep truth in it. It's quite fascinating. I hope you're doing well. And if you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. Post a lot of interesting things on there, and I hope to see you there.